The defection of Monica Witt, betrayal in the shadows. She once swore an oath to protect her country. But in the shadows of espionage, loyalty is a currency easily spent. Monica Elfriede Witt was, by all outward appearances, a patriot. The kind of officer who saluted sharply, memorized the codes, and knew the cost of silence. Raised in a military family in El Paso, Texas, she grew up with discipline in her blood and devotion in her bones. From early on, she was the kind of American who didn't just wave the flag. She lived under it. In 1997, she joined the U.S. Air Force, quickly distinguishing herself as a cryptologic linguist. She was fluent in Farsi, culturally attuned to the rhythms of the Middle East, and she held a top-secret security clearance. She knew things others weren't even allowed to guess. She was sent on covert missions. She read communications that never made it to public airwaves. She analyzed whispers from enemy states and helped shape America's next move on the chessboard of global conflict. She wasn't a pawn. She was a queen in uniform, silent, powerful, and absolutely trusted. But no one saw the storm coming. It didn't happen overnight. Disillusionment rarely does. For Witt, it began as a flicker of doubt, a subtle questioning of her country's choices, motives, and missions. She began wondering if the work she was doing, the surveillance, the secrets, the strategy, was really making the world safer, or just darker. By the time she left the Air Force in 2010, the seeds of her resentment had already taken root, but the system kept her close. She continued working as a defense contractor, still inside the same machine she was quietly growing to despise. She was still reading the same secrets, only now, she was reading them with different eyes. She began seeking out alternative voices, forums, groups, movements that challenged U.S. foreign policy. What was once duty became doubt. And then doubt curdled into anger. That anger would soon find a home. In 2012, Witt traveled to Iran, an unprecedented move for a former U.S. intelligence officer, especially one so recently embedded in high-level operations. She attended a government-sponsored conference called Hollywoodism, a propaganda-laced event laced with anti-American rhetoric. It wasn't just a curiosity trip, it was a test, a public declaration, a coming out. She appeared in state media videos praising Iran and criticizing the United States. The once proud Air Force veteran now sat on camera, smiling with Iranian hosts and denouncing the military she once served. To American intelligence, it was unthinkable. To Iranian intelligence, it was a golden invitation. The courtship began subtly, meetings, conversations, a steady pull into the arms of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They saw in Witt not just a symbol, but a goldmine. She knew where operations were staged, how assets were handled, and who among her former colleagues were still in the field. By August 2013, Monica Witt vanished from American soil. The next time her name appeared, she was in Tehran. She had defected. What she did next would haunt the intelligence community for years. She handed over classified data, not just dry reports, but active mission intel. She gave the Iranians the names of her former colleagues, operatives still in harm's way. She provided the blueprints for America's cyber defense posture and walked them through the inner workings of covert operations. But it didn't stop at documents. Witt became an architect of betrayal. She helped Iranian hackers build targeted phishing attacks, creating fake personas, fake social accounts, and trap after trap meant to lure American intelligence officers into compromising clicks and conversations. She wasn't just handing over information, she was directing the show. She was no longer a defector, she was an enemy combatant with insider knowledge. Years passed. The U.S. government, realizing the scale of what had happened, began piecing together her digital and human trail. But by the time they moved, the damage was already catastrophic. Then, in 2019, the silence broke. The Justice Department unsealed a grand jury indictment against Monica Witt. The pages read like the script of a thriller. Espionage, conspiracy, cyber warfare. They detailed how she betrayed her colleagues, how she turned their habits, quirks, passwords, routines into weapons in the hands of an adversary. 4 Iranian hackers were indicted alongside her. Witt had given them everything they needed to weaponize her knowledge, and they did. She didn't pull a trigger, she didn't plant a bomb. She simply opened a door and watched America bleed from the inside out. Today, Monica Witt lives in Iran, beyond extradition, beyond reach, beyond consequence. There is no trial on the horizon, no prison bars, no courtroom justice, only shadows. She exists in a gray space, alive, perhaps even honored, by the very regime she once studied for weakness. But even in her silence, the echoes remain. She is a ghost, a symbol, a cautionary tale whispered in the training rooms of U.S. intelligence agencies. Some say she was brainwashed, others say she was broken. But whatever the cause, the effect was undeniable. She had the keys to the kingdom, and she used them to open the gates to hell. This is not just the story of a betrayal. It's the story of how even the most trusted hearts can rot in silence. How patriotism, if cracked, can collapse into treason. And how one woman, with access, with anger, and with knowledge, became one of the most dangerous traitors in modern American history. And if you found this story shocking, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. There are more untold stories of espionage coming your way. Stay vigilant, stay sharp. Until next time.